Welcome everyone to the class today, both in person and online. I'm delighted to share that we have Heather Stuart here from Dillon Consulting, where she's a partner and officer. And she's here today to share her expertise and to talk about transitioning the academic experience in sustainability into career opportunities, which is a huge topic for our students thinking about career opportunities. And of course, many of you are going through the co-op process right now and securing employment. So we're delighted to have you here today. I want to start with the land acknowledgement before Heather's talk, which is that Brock University acknowledges the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people, and acknowledging them reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous peoples. So huge welcome. Heather is also a friend of mine, and it might be helpful to learn that we met each other in grad school at the University of Waterloo. And so the relationships that you're building today are those that, you know, very well could last a lifetime. And I have absolute confidence that our relationship will indeed last a lifetime.
20 plus years.
Yeah. It's been a long time. Not too bad. Yeah. Anyway, without further delay, I'll invite Heather to the floor. Thank you.
Hi. Thanks for coming today. I hope my intent for this conversation today is to use your lens of sustainability to help talk about career opportunities for you, how to interview, and how to work with clients. So I encourage you to take out paper or something to take notes. There's going to be a lot of information. Some of it will sink in, some of it won't, but having the notes will help anchor it for you for the future. So I highly encourage you, if you haven't done so already, to take some pieces of paper out so you can have this embedded at a later time. The outline of the presentation today, you're going to get to know who I am, who this person is standing up at the front. We're going to talk about different roles in sustainability, and then we're going to talk about career applications, interviewing, and project contributions, how to work with clients and your peers. What is interesting is those three bullets at the end have intersecting attributes between all three. So what makes you a good person for someone to hire is going to make you a good interview, is going to make you a good project and team member. So for some reason, this keeps skipping ahead. I'm going to just pause for a second and take the slide advance out, or else we're going to be having to deal with this the whole time, and that's just not fun. So,
it's funny, it's done it to other presenters in this room too. Yeah, so that's really weird.
So just close your eyes. I don't want to like ruin any of these surprises. Okay, I think we're okay. All right. Okay, so this is me. I am, let's see, I have an honors Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science. I have a specialist in biogeochemistry. Both of those are from McMaster. I have my master's degree from the University of Waterloo, where I met this wonderful woman like over 20 years ago, which is a wonderful context, because if you look around the room and you see who you're sitting next to, 20 years from now, you could be not only friends, but professional colleagues. And I can't tell you how many times in my work experience that I've walked into a ministry office and there's someone from my grad class. Or I've gone to another consulting firm and there's my buddy that we did undergrad with, right? Like, this is a very small world that we live in, and your friends in school become your colleagues and friends in your professional careers as well. So it's very interesting. People in this room, you're going to go on to do so many different things. And to have those resources in all the different industries and sectors is such a resource for you. So make sure that as you're going through and thinking about the people around you, like, get to know them, value them, and understand that you're going to be in and out of each other's lives likely as your career progresses. Just some fun pictures of me. So I specialized in contaminated sites. So I have focused on soil, groundwater, and surface water contamination all across Canada, Sudan, Gabon, the Philippines, and throughout the States. So I've got to do some really cool travel. This is me in Sudan in 2007. It was after the Civil War and before the country split into two. And my job was to work with the UN and go around to all the temporary airports that they put in to get the UN and the troops in and out, assess them for contamination, and then change them over. As you can see, it was pretty sad. Like, it's just terrible. War is terrible, and contamination is terrible. I did my undergrad research on limnological systems, so freshwater ecosystems, and looking at how phosphorus and cottagers impact the nutrient chemistry of lakes. This is a really cool dairy in St. George that I took down. So it's this huge abandoned building, and we had to take it down. And when we lifted up the floor, we found an artesian well. Most wells in Ontario don't become fountains. In very few places in Ontario, they're under so much pressure that the water starts to flow. 200 liters a minute, though, is quite a lot. So we had to get creative of how we dealt with that. This is in Gabon. This is an old refinery that had been left to sit in the very, very hot African sun and leaked oil and chemicals everywhere. And this is just me at home. So I got to do a lot of cool projects over the years. And I got to do them at a company called Dillon Consulting. So Dillon has been around since 45. We were founded, again, by two buddies that came out of the war, and they were engineers, and they decided to create a company together. We are now over 1,100 employees, coast to coast to coast, and it's all owned by the employees. So we own the firm. There's no external shareholders. So that means whatever decisions that benefits us as the employees the most, that's what we do. We answer to ourselves, which gives us a wonderful autonomy of like, what is important? Prioritizing professional development, that's important. Prioritizing the longevity of the firm, that's important. Prioritizing our share price so that when we retire, our shares are worth money, that's important. All of those are concepts in sustainability, right? So we work as employee owners to make sure that our firm remains sustainable after the decades and decades and decades that it started. So I am out of the Guelph office down here, but we have offices all over the country. Does anyone know what a consultant does? Has anyone heard of a consultant? Yeah? Okay. Anyone know what a consultant does? I have the answer on the screen. I probably should ask that question. We provide advice, right? So we will look at a situation and provide advice to our clients. So Dillon has environmental scientists, we have biologists, we've got engineers, we've got city planners. So if you want to build a bridge, we'll design the bridge for you. If you want to actually put it in place, we'll do the environmental and planning approvals for you. We will monitor it to construction, right? So people in our company have a variety of different skill sets. We have biologists who work with species at risk. I've gotten to work with them a lot recently, and they are so cool. They know so many wonderful things about like turtles and birds and how the ecosystem can affect them through change. And so having a collective of scientists and engineers and planners around gives us like a full 360 view. And then we help our clients. So our clients are governments, municipalities, universities, resource industry, rail industry, so Enbridge, CP, any manufacturer that you can think of, chemical manufacturers, not-for-profits, anyone who needs help with any of those skills, that's who we work for. This was my site, which I can share. It's in the public space. This was in Sarnia with Suncor. Suncor owns this huge 2.5 hectare lot in the back 40 there. Somebody's pipe broke, and liquid benzene was flowing all out on the underground of his property. Liquid benzene is like super bad. You have a little bit of it in your gasoline, but like in full liquid form, super toxic, super bad. It had gone all through the underground area, and the road that bisected the site was owned by a First Nation. So it was super complicated for a lot of different reasons. We never knew whose pipeline it was, but Suncor was like, we don't care, we're going to clean it up, which I have so much respect for them, of how they've approached this site. So this was one of my projects. We had to take out some of the soil, we put in wells, we put in geomembranes to keep the biological ecosystem safe. There's wells all through it. It was such, I could do an entire talk on that one project, but this is some of the things that we get to do. And again, all of this can be looked at through a lens of sustainability. How do you do this without destroying the ecosystem? How do you do this while preserving the rights of the First Nation people whose land it abuts? How do you protect the air quality? How do you make sure that in 20 years all this stuff doesn't have to come out and it's going to be like a carbon sink, right? So at Dillon, I've had many roles. As Marilyn said, I'm a partner and an officer in the firm. I just finished a 4-year stint as the national manager for our environmental management business unit. Anything to do with project approvals, due diligence, environmental quantification, and sustainability were all with my team. My team was responsible for like $20 million as our revenue footprint. And our job was to develop and provide regulatory and services for our clients. So it's fun. So this is probably very familiar to you. All the different concepts of sustainability work in more and more into all of the business units at Dillon. They're in our transportation, community strategies, land development, environmental management. They hit all of us. Have you seen the Sustainable Development Goals before? Okay. I love the inclusive nature of the Sustainable Development Goals because they cover things other than fish need to be protected and air is important. They cover like hunger. They cover peace, justice, and structures and institutions. They cover all of the things that sustainability encompasses. It's so multidimensional. Dillon does a lot of corporate social responsibility things for environment, society, workplace, and marketplace. And then we also do a lot of scope 1, 2, and 3 for GHG emissions. Do you guys work with scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions? We won't get into it. Okay, so let's talk about you. So what's next for you? It's my understanding that the opportunities after this class for you are co-op, further graduate degrees, and getting a job. Did I miss any of the potential outcomes? Winning the lottery, of course, being ideal. But is that basically the options for you folks? Okay. All right, so let's talk about this. Where could your next steps with your sustainability background take you? There's 2 ways that I like to look at opportunity for graduates. The first is theory, research, and policy building. Things under this type of scope include being a professor, a lecturer working in academia, municipalities, federal governments, conservation authorities, Ministry of the Environment. And these roles, you get to do research, you get to do policy, and you get to do theory and application. People usually fall in one category or another. I would do terrible in this. This is not what my skill set is. Marilyn does it brilliantly. I suck at it. I'm not good at that. I'm on the practical side. So I work with industries to take the theory that wonderful academic people create, and I apply them in real life. I figure out if a client has $500,000, how can we best spend that money to mitigate the risk, protect and clean up the environment, and provide something sustainable in the future. That's what I get very excited about, and that's how I focus. So again, I've worked for manufacturers, banking and insurance. I love the resources sector, mining, oil and gas. I came out of university thinking that they were not great industries, and I had a very biased view of what they were. After 20 years of working with them, I can't tell you how much respect I have for them, how much they care and hold themselves accountable to be positive environmental citizens, especially the resource folks that I've worked with, and that's Enbridge, Suncor, Union Gas. Petro-Canada, Imperial Oil, like they really have entire departments of people trying to improve their environmental footprint. And I get to work with them and share my academic knowledge and say, this is what we can do this year, this is what we can do next year, this is the continuum that we can build together. So it's been a very exciting career, and no 2 days is the same. As you saw from the pictures, it all looks different. So what makes sense for you? Coming out of this degree and coming out with the experience you have, you want to find something that you enjoy. I know that sounds trite, but you guys spend 30, 35 years working in this field. Oh, some time, right? Find something that lights you up. When I talk about mercury contamination, it's exciting, right? It's something that has brought me a lot of excitement as a problem that I got to help solve for one of my clients, right? So pay attention to the things that make you excited. A good question that I was asked is how long it'll take you to find your first role. How long does it you think it takes you to find a job? Oh, it's not difficult. Yeah.
It took a year for me.
Yeah.
So that was a lot, I assume.
Yeah.
But it can take longer than you think. That's what I learned.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember being in university and other people had jobs before they graduated, and I was like, no one's been calling me, right? I don't have a job. And I went and got my master's. And then as I searched for my first job, I chose to view it as a retirement from academic life. So I was a retired student, and I used the time thereafter to find a job. And it took me like 3 months, and that was really quick. Like a year makes sense, right? Anyone can find a job. And if you can find a job, like go for it. But when you're talking about what you want for a career, it takes patience, and it takes longer than you think. If you can get one while you're still in school, so happy for you, right? But it's a challenge. So if it feels challenging, it's not your fault. It is challenging, okay? Why your first 3 years matter? The first 3 years of job, your first 3 months of a co-op term, those help set where your tangent is going to go. The biggest piece of advice I can give you for your first 3 years, say yes to everything. I got a site in Africa. Do you want to go? Yes. I got a site where you got to go and purge your well for 10 hours a day. Yes. You know, try everything because you learn from all those experiences. Whether or not they fill your soul with joy is something else entirely. But having that variety of opportunity early on is super important. The thing that you need to balance is your awareness in those situations of what you're good at, what you like doing, what you want to do longer, and like kind of having a mental track of that opportunity to opportunity. So how can you get there? Let's check my time. So things that you can do now to find opportunities. So looking at professional associations, are there any engineers in here? Engineering? Okay, good job. So being a professional engineer is a well-documented path. For scientists, professional geoscientists in Ontario is a parallel path to being a professional engineer. There are courses and requirements that you can take now while you're in school so that when you graduate, you can get into the in-training program, the GIT or the GIT, and that makes you eligible to get your professional designation in 3 years. Why professional designation is important. They give you more autonomy over the projects you work on and the clients that you serve. You get paid more money, and you have a heightened level of responsibility and ethical care. Okay, so if you are a scientist or an engineer, I would definitely recommend looking at the requirements now, because if you do need to take an extra 2 or 3 classes, please do them now. It is so hard after you're working to take a course at night. It's so difficult. So do what you can now. If you're a planner, so there's a professional planning designation. Biologists in Ontario, I can't remember. Is that Ireland? No?
I don't think so.
Safety first. Okay. And all of these talk about how to raise your ceiling. Okay, so your professional designation, your master's, your specialist courses, all of that helps raise the ceiling in terms of leadership accountability within your future career, and again, how much you get paid. You know, someone coming in with a master's degree gets paid more right off the bat than someone with an undergrad. Okay. So, cover letters. Who's written a cover letter? Oh, I get painful. Like painful, right? Super important. Because that's the first time that a potential employer is going to get to know you. So usually, back in my day, I had to fax everything. Now I'm guessing most of you email. Yeah, that's nice. So your introductory email plus your cover letter and resume, right? So that email is also important, okay? What to do in those two documents, we'll talk about the resume in a second. Stand out as yourself. Do not chat GPT an introductory email or a cover letter, because as employers, we have read them. We know what they look like, we are well versed, we use ChatGPT. It's great, but we know what that is versus what you write and who you are. And especially in a company like Dillon that's an employee held, we want to get to know who we're hiring, because we want you to work with us for like 35 years and be part of something that we're building together, right? So be yourself. Brevity is best. Oh my gosh, do not like take out the single spaces and make it half spaces and expand your margins. Take out all of the useless adjectives, right? Be brief, keep it to a page. Your email introductory should be like a paragraph, okay? People don't have time to do all the reading, okay? Especially when you have to think that they are also reading dozens and dozens and dozens of other applications. Stand out by being succinct. Good grammar is good. Please read it a couple times. I find it really good. Oh, really good, I don't even know if that's good grammar. I find it very helpful to read it out loud. So sit at your desk and literally read your cover letter out loud. You will find the mistakes if you are saying it out loud than if you're just reading it in your head. Align your input to the advertisement. So an advertisement will have certain keywords and certain key requirements. Make sure you hit those highlights in your cover letter with examples. So if I say, I want to have someone who has 3 years experience as a sustainability specialist. If you write, I have 3 years of experience as a sustainability specialist, great, that's like the minimum bar. But if you have in your next sentence, here are 3 examples of things that I've done as a sustainability specialist. Those 3 things put you ahead of everybody else, right? If you say I'm a hard worker and energetic and I have a great attitude, those are adjectives, right? I have no way to ground truth that. If you can tell me that you're an energetic worker because you like to come in early and get additional work done before you start, that's an example. If you want to tell me that you're diligent and you give me a cover letter that has grammatical errors all throughout it, that's a lie, right? Use ways to anchor what you're trying to tell me with an example, and that makes you stand out because that anchors it in truth and reality. Questions about this? Make sense? All right. Your resume. How much is your resume worth? How much is your resume worth? If you had to put a value on what your resume is worth, how much? It's an actual question, it's not rhetorical. Give me a number. How much would you pay for your resume?
Well, that's a good way to frame it. How much would you pay somebody else to
Well, like,
write your resume, let's say?
or just like in the context of your career, what is that piece of paper worth? Like, what's the monetary value of your resume?
Or even the courses you have done, right? So you can calculate.
So give me a number.
You can pay $300 to get a resume done by somebody else, but it's worth much more than that.
Exactly.
How much?
How much?
That's what she's asking.
How much is your resume worth?
Yeah, cost of graduate degree. That's what you're paying for it. If that's, everything goes there.
It's actually worth whatever your first job is, right? So all of your education, right? And then your first job. Your first job, if your annual salary is $50,000, that is how much your resume is worth. My starting salary was $40,000. It was 20 years ago, so it's gone up. But that's how much my resume was worth, because that got me in the door to that job. It is what got me the 40K, right? So when you're creating your cover letter and your email and your resume, put it in context of that equals $50,000. It's going to change how you write it. It's going to change how you value it as a tool. In a non-academic world, a CV is not a resume. Do not send in a 12-page CV to a non-academic employer. They won't read it. Your resume should be 2 pages. Anyone want to guess how long it takes an initial prospective employer to review your resume and cover letter?
Less than 2 minutes.
50 grand, 2 minutes. That's how much time you have, and that's being generous. I probably, in my first look, it probably doesn't take me 2 minutes, because I've got a stack of 20 of them on my desk. So I will look through and be very quickly, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, 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 because I'm looking for the minimum bar, okay? So this page of like 20, I've taken out 15, 5 are now my minimum bar. I will spend longer reading them, but still really quick. And the first things that my eyes are drawn to are errors. So if you have mistakes in them, I will circle them and I'll see them first, because it shows that you don't pay attention to your work. If I have to think about using your work for scientific study, for engineering, for the basis of legal documentation, and you've got errors in your cover letter, you don't put that much care and concern into your output, right? So then I narrow it down to 3, and then I'll go and interview those 3. But it happens really quick, okay? This is like your first impression. Same thing as the cover letter, like brevity, take out your useless adjectives and put in your examples, right? What to include? 2 pages. Highlighting your education at the top. Related classes is key. If you don't have a lot of work experience, a lot of people are actually working other jobs as they're coming through university so that they can afford university. Make sure you're highlighting those classes, because that can be as important as having like a summer internship doing water sampling for a conservation authority, okay? So make sure that you're highlighting the related classes to the job that you're applying for. So those related classes should change depending on who you're applying for. Maybe keep it to 5. Don't put more than 10. We won't look, right? Put down the 5 important ones. Any awards you've received, academic or otherwise, those are great to include if you got a scholarship because of marks or anything like that. When you do go through and you list your work experiences, 3 to 4 points. Again, example-based, and make sure that you are specific and concise, okay? I once had a resume come in. There was a person just out of university, and they worked at the movie theater, right? And they put on their resume that they were in charge of client relationship management and financial transactions, providing a positive client experience and making sure that the retail environment was kept organized, good housekeeping. And I was like, yes, she got an interview and I hired her. I love that. I love the way she conceptualized what her job was, other than I take people's money and I tell them to go watch a movie, right? Because there is other layers to how we approach our work. And I was so impressed with how she did it that I was like, yeah, I don't care what all the other stuff says. I want to talk to the person who can put like working at a movie theater in that context. Right? That was great. Still think about it. Volunteer and community experience, whatever you've had a chance to do in your communities, in your church groups, like whatever is related. If you watch the neighborhood kids so that the parents can go out and work or something like that, that's also part of how you're supporting your community, right? I love this cartoon, just for the people online. It says, it's just that I've never seen book smarts listed on a resume before. So don't put that on your resume. Okay, how to stand out. I don't know if you've heard of the Eco Canada intern program. You guys heard about that one? That one's great. It means that you come in with part of your first year salary subsidized to your prospective employer. I think it's $10,000, at least it was back in the day. So if your first year of employment, you get paid $50,000, but 10 of it gets paid by the government versus your employer. If you and another candidate come in and you have it and they don't, you're 10 grand cheaper in the first year, you get the edge, right? It's free, absolutely free. Know where you're applying in their business. So do your research ahead of time. Never show up to an interview without knowing about who you're talking to. If you're going into the city of Hamilton and you don't know that the city of Hamilton borders like Cootes Paradise and Burlington Bay and has different, City of Hamilton has more waterfalls than any other place in Ontario. If you don't know what you're talking about when you go in, again, your employer is going to think that you don't care and you wouldn't be a good employee from that, right? Demonstrate your connection to their objectives. I would say without exception, all businesses have a vision and a mission statement, right? Dillon's vision is elevate value every day. Every day we are trying to elevate the value in ourselves and our work and for our clients. That's what we do, okay? Show your connection to their objectives and that you're aware that they have objectives, okay? We spend a lot of time figuring out what vision and mission is for a company and putting it in a specific tagline. Understand what that is because it's key to how that business operates. How to find prospective employers. So all the classics like Google, LinkedIn, Dillon, we hire. On all company pages, manufacturing, anything, everybody's got a career page, right? You just Google it. And then network. Again, everyone in this room are your peers, your colleagues, your future partners at your companies, your future regulators. This is the initial start of your network, okay? Marilyn knows a bunch of people. We all know, use this as your network. Applying for a job, go where the employers go. So conferences, industry events, professional association events, there's always mixers for new grads. There's a ton of conferences that are out and about. I don't know if it's something that is done. Do you guys have your own business cards as grad students?
They used to.
Right?
It used to be a thing.
It used to be a thing.
But now they don't typically.
Yeah. So I remember going to conferences and handing out I'm a master's student business card. So that's what you did. But go out and talk to the people at the tables, right? So if has everyone been to a conference? Yeah. Okay. So at a conference, there's always a trade show part of a conference where there's a bunch of booths set up and people are selling different equipment, people are representing consulting or municipalities or whatever. Go and talk to all the people in the booths. They are bored. They're standing there. They're waiting for someone to come talk to them. Just go and have a conversation. I'm a student. What do you do? Tell me about your company. Maybe you're interested, maybe not. But again, you're practicing those conversational skills that you're going to need in an interview, right? Go talk to everyone at that trade show. If you are going and watching a talk and someone finishes the talk, go talk to them afterwards. I really liked your point about X, right? It demonstrates that you were listening. And again, those are conversations that you can have. It doesn't cost you any money. Same theme of learning about the prospective employee company first. Have to feel knowledgeable. If you want to at certain conferences and stuff, you can also have a stack of resumes in your bag, okay? Don't have cover letters, that's a little cheesy if you don't know in advance who you're gonna hand it out to. But seriously, have resumes with you, right? Hand them out. Making a connection. Don't be afraid to call. Anyone ever called to see if someone would hire you before? Was it an enjoyable experience? No, it's terrible, right? It's so scary. So when I graduated, when I was a retired student, I did everything I was told to do. I emailed out my resume, I had wonderful cover letters, I sent my faxes, no one called me. I had great advice from a professor of Maryland's and I's, Dr. Jean Andrew. Hi Jean, if you're watching. She told me to call them and have conversations. And I said, I'm so scared, I don't wanna. They're gonna hang up. And she's like, you need to call them. And I'm like, well, it says right on the website, don't call us. Or we don't have any jobs right now. We'll post a job when we have a job. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to call them. And she's like, get over yourself, pick up the phone. So I said, okay. So one Friday at 5 o'clock, I was like, I'm going to call this company. And I'm going to be able to turn around and say to Jean, I did what you said, I called them. So I called at 5. Thinking I'd be super safe that no one would answer. I could leave a little voicemail and that'd be fine, I could check the box. So the phone rings and the vice president of the company picks up. Because at 5 o'clock on Friday, everyone else had gone home and the vice president was the only one who was left. And I started stuttering and I managed to pull my stuff together and have a conversation with him. We started to chat, I'm like, hi. I graduated my master's, I'm looking for a job, I saw your website, blah, 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 blah. He's like, oh, great, come in Tuesday. I was like, okay. I hung up the phone, I backed away, and I was like, my very first phone call, I had a conversation with the vice president, and he asked me to come in the following Tuesday for a job interview for a job that they had no postings about, under a sign that said, do not call us, right? The worst case scenario in that whole thing was that he didn't pick up, or she didn't pick up, or they ignored my voicemail. All of those are fine consequences. None of them hurt me, right? But I took that chance, and on my first call, I got an interview. I went in, smashed the interview, I got a job. So all of that work where I've been avoiding those personal connections because it was safer and easier to send an email or a fax, when I actually got my self-confidence together and I made the outreach, it rewarded me right away, okay? Which is how Jean's husband got his job. So please call people. All right, let's talk about interviews. So interviews, being technically proficient is the minimum bar. If you graduate and you have a degree, congrats, you've met the minimum bar. Everything after that is what you bring to the table besides that. So when you go to interviews, you are now competing based on your critical thought, your attitude, your ability to grow, okay? The most important things companies are looking for are coachability. Coming out of an academic background, you have a lot of theoretical knowledge, unless you're going into more research, and even if you are going into more research, you have so much more to learn. If you think about people who have been working in industry for 30 years, they have a lot of knowledge that they did not get from the university programs, right? There's so much you gain from the job. So you need to be coachable in order to continue to learn. So if you come into your interview believing that you have sustainability in the bag, you know all your stuff, you're good to go, that says to me that you don't have the critical thought or self-awareness to understand that there's so much more out there that you need to learn, okay? So we look for coachability. Ability to apply your knowledge. So for example, if I am talking to you about a site where I'm doing groundwater sampling up in Northern Ontario and I share that piece of information, a great thing that you can do is say, hey, I saw a great article in the CBC about lakes in Northern Ontario and how cottages are starting to impact them negatively. Have you experienced that here at your company, right? You're taking something I've said and you've riffed off it and you've applied your knowledge, right? That shows me that you have critical thought and you can have a conversation about a topic, right? Team players, again, the people that you work with, you spend like 40 hours a week with, you've got to be able to work with a variety of different personality types. You don't have to be friends with everyone. You have to understand how to get the best out of each other so that you can do your best work. Be willing to work from the ground up. You're not senior. Even if you graduate with a PhD, you are not senior. You won't be senior for like 10 years, right? Understand that it is important to have those entry-level positions so that you can learn as much as possible. I accepted every field opportunity I could because I wanted to make sure when I was a project manager and someone called to me from the field and said, my drill rig stopped working, what do? I could give them advice. Or if I listen to the tone of the voice and I hear that my field staff is exhausted, I know what that feels like and I can say, get a hotel, do not drive home, right? You have to have those experiences yourselves so that in the future you can be better managers and leaders of your peers. People who have the share perspective on their business. That is a terrible sentence. That should be people who share the same perspective on their businesses. I don't know why I've written that sentence for you. There you go. I don't know if that popped it to anyone else, but there's an error in my slide. Apologies. If you are a sustainability-focused person and you go into a workplace and they don't care about gender equity in the workplace, they don't care about recycling, they don't care that their wastewater output is going into the pond next door with their treatment, and that's not your value, don't work there. Even if they want to pay you the $50,000, you will not want to work there. So make sure that your business that you are applying to or your academic institution shares your values. Or if they don't share your values, they're willing to grow and consider other perspectives. Okay? Attitude, attitude, attitude. Again, everything being equal between you and another candidate, the employer will pick the person that they want to work with. Right? So that doesn't mean that you have to be happy-go-lucky and outgoing and funny. It means that you have to have confidence in who you are as a person and a willingness just to let that speak for itself, right? I'm an outgoing person. I love working with all personality types, right? As long as you are centered in who you are as a person, I will work with any personality type as long as you're not trying to put on a mask, put on a happy face or smile. That's inauthentic and that's exhausting, okay? Be yourself. You're fine as you are. Be yourself, okay? Just some tips for interviewing. Be early and on time. Listen. Answer questions by using your examples. I think we've talked about that one. If you're going in for a certain type of project or position and there's associated regulations, learn the regulations. Even if you just learn the numbers or the titles, show that you've done some work, some research. Be yourself and be relatable. You can find common ground with anybody. We are all 99% the same, both like mentally and physically. You can find something to talk to and find a shared interest with someone. Eager versus trust. This is a big one. We talked a little bit about being inauthentic, right? If you come in overeager and you're there and you're showing me what you think I want to see and I'm going to do whatever you want, I will not trust you, okay? Because that means you're going to tell me whatever I want to hear to get this job. I can't trust someone who is so motivated by self-interest, okay? I had someone come into an interview and bless her, she was desperate. She's like, I will do anything. I will write whatever you want on reports. I will work as long as you want. I need a job, but I will do whatever you tell me to do. And I was like, I can't hire you because I can't trust you to have a level of professionalism, right? To know on your own what is right and what is wrong. If you're willing to do whatever, I can't put you in front of clients. I can't put you in front of a regulator because I can't trust you. Your self-interest is too high. She needed a job, but I couldn't trust her to hire her, so I chose someone else, right? So that's what I say about putting on a mask. As soon as you start to put on a mask and you're not authentic to whoever you are, it decreases the level of trust in the room. I don't know if you've thought about that in terms of trust, but that's a good one to think about. Always have inquiry questions ready and back pocket questions. So those are just like, go through their resume, go through your interviewer's resume on LinkedIn, go through the company website, have some questions in your back pocket. What's a day look like? I saw your project online about X, tell me about it, something like that, where you have a list of questions that shows you've done your homework. Interview goes two ways, right? Again, if you are in that interview and the person interviewing you, who's going to be your boss, gives you the ick feeling, don't take the job, right? If you get an ick, don't stay there, okay? You can always ask, a great question is, who are your supervisors and who are your peers, right? Because you want to know who you get to learn from and work with and who's going to be your mentors. And if you get there and they're like, oh, well, you're not going to have a direct supervisor, your mentorship opportunities are really low, you're basically going to have to learn on the job, that might not be something that interests you as soon as you leave university. You might be looking for oversight and someone who's going to mentor you both technically and professionally. These are just some good questions. Okay. I love this one. How do you foster staff development? Oh, it's a great one. And then follow up with a thank you note. So after you leave and go home, send an email. Really appreciated you taking the time. Thanks so much. Eager to learn more about your company. Let me know if you have any questions. Right? It's good. It's a good practice. These are sustainability jobs that took me 5 minutes to find. Okay? So all I did was Google sustainability jobs Ontario. Okay? What may interest you to see is all of the different places that have sustainability options that you haven't thought of. For example, did you think that Purelator had a sustainability and supply chain position? Well, I didn't. CBC Radio, Sun Life is an insurance company, restaurant brands, General Motors. Everybody has roles for sustainability now. Companies are at varying stages of their sustainability and their ESG journeys, but who is hiring is everybody, right? So try not to let your head be limited by what you think you know, and just do a bunch of general searches, because you would be surprised who is looking for well-educated people coming out that has ideas that they can apply at their place of business, right? Ooh, this is also fun. Did you know that video game companies are one of the biggest GHG emitters and carbon users? Because of all of the server farms, which generate so much heat, right? They pull so much energy, they actually have a huge sustainability problem, and they need help, like setting up their sites to be more sustainable, to use less energy, to reduce the amount of carbon. If you love video games, like, go down that rabbit hole. That's really fun, okay? That's like two loves. Okay, I have gone long. I have a section on translating this to projects. Do you want to take a quick, like, 2-minute break? You want me to keep talking? I'll wrap this up in like 5 to 7 minutes, but I did run long, so I apologize.
Yeah, we're good.
You're good? Everyone's still awake? Okay.
We hope so.
Okay, so we talked about trust before, but this is skill translation. So how can you translate your interviewing and your resume, career experiences to projects, right? I believe you're working on a project as a class, right?
523, yep.
Yeah. How can you translate all of this information into your clients and the projects that you're working on? So skill translation, this is the trust equation. I've had this on my desk for 20 years, put it on your desks. It is an amazing way to approach client relationships and just regular relationships. And if you like math, it's an equation. So trust. Trust is credibility plus reliability plus intimacy. And intimacy means how well do I know you? So if you're my client, I need to make sure that I am credible and you can rely on me. So if you email me, I don't wait a week to get back to you. I get back to you the next day. If you have a problem and I don't know the answers, my response is, thank you for your inquiry. I will research this and get back to you within 4 days, okay? And then intimacy. I understand that when Suncor calls me, that these are the parameters that they need for this particular piece of work, okay? That's knowing your client, both as a company and as an individual, right? And then self-orientation, right? Anytime that I interact with someone and my self-orientation is high, they trust me less. So when I have my mask of inauthenticity on in a job interview, because all I want is the job, I don't really care what the employer is, just someone please pay me, that reduces trust. If I am more concerned about how much money you're going to pay me to do this job for your company, that's self-orientation. It means I care more about the fee than I do about their problem. They will trust me less. Okay? If I cannot admit a mistake, I had a mistake in this presentation. If I cannot admit a mistake, that means I am more concerned about appearing right than being right. I'm more happy with good than better. Okay? Good is fine. Good is the enemy of better, right? If I can't say, I don't know, let me look into that, then my self-orientation increases, you will be trusted less. Okay, whether people are conscious of that or not, whenever you are more concerned about yourself and your own protection, people will trust you less. Working with clients, oh, listen. When we go and we interview our clients, and we meet with them, I don't talk. I don't stand up here in presentations. I ask questions and I listen. And then I ask them more questions and I listen some more, right? It's all about hearing from them what their problems are. Because if I go into solution mode right away, I didn't even hear what the problem was, right? Listening is key. Ask questions. Take notes. So you've got your notes out, you're taking notes. Not only are the notes helpful for you in the long term, it shows that you're paying attention. So if I'm standing up here and I'm your client, I know that this lady in the red jacket here has been paying attention to what I'm saying because she's been taking notes. I have eye contact from her, and I know that she is taking what I'm saying. If you're not taking notes, maybe those things are true, but I don't have a visual identification of that, right? So if I'm a client and I gotta think of, am I gonna hire this person here or this person who is not taking notes? Right? I'm gonna hire her.
She's marking the paper. Do that too.
All right, consider what you'd expect as a client. One day, you shall be the client. One day, someone will be coming to you, okay? What would you want to see, right? Do you want someone who is curious about your work, who has good questions, who wants you to be successful in whatever your problem is? Think about that in your context. Again, proactive research, know your client goals. You'll notice the themes are very similar as we go through. And I also want to talk about servant leadership for a second. So as I get my Kleenex out, does anyone know what servant leadership is?
The leader becomes the servant, enabling people to do their job better.
Absolutely, perfect. So the old-fashioned view of leadership is the triangle like this, where I'm so important, I'm a partner and an officer in my firm, I'm at the top, right? It's terrible leadership, right? Servant leadership is realizing that as a partner and officer in my firm, I'm at the very bottom. It is my job to serve and support all of the employees in my firm, right? I only succeed when they succeed, right? Being a servant leader means leading from the back of the room, giving other people time to shine, giving other people time to grow and develop, right? I am only a good leader if those around me are growing and prospering, okay? And you can't be a good leader with ego and with arrogance. That can get you shortcuts, that can get you some success, but in terms of long-term success, you will find a cliff at some point, okay? I encourage you to look this up as a topic and do a bit of research yourself. High impact behaviors as a leader, and again, whether you are serving a client, whether you're going to an interview, whether you are hiring someone, these are some of the best high impact behaviors you can do, okay? Knowing the business, communicating ideas, emphasizing quality over quantity, working for a sense of accomplishment as much as we all want $50,000. In the long run, working for that soul-fulfilling sense of accomplishment is more important in the long run. Showing concern for people, again, trust equation, are you out for yourself? Or are you out to help, rising tides raise all boats, right? Are you a team player? Helping others grow and develop. That's pretty key. Disruptive behaviors. Never relinquishing control. Anyone ever have a problem relinquishing control? Okay, recognizing that in yourself when you need to, and understand that you don't have to be in charge. Okay, letting someone else take the lead is a really important exercise for all of us to have. Okay, helping someone else succeed is really important as a leadership development concept. Micromanaging, have trust in those around you, right? Even if they're not perfect, better is more important than good, right? And opposing indirectly. We call these the bathroom warriors. So opposing things indirectly means, has anyone heard that before? Bathroom warriors?
Passive aggressive.
Pardon?
Passive aggressive behavior.
Passive aggressive behavior. If I'm up here and I'm talking about GIS, we all love GIS, it's wonderful, and you're all not alone, and say, yes, GIS is great. And then y'all go to the bathroom and be like, oh my God, GIS is the worst, I hate it, it's terrible. Again, you're being inauthentic and you're opposing things indirectly, right? If you think GIS is terrible, say it, right?
Ouch.
So, love it. I love it. No, but say it, right? Because say you think GIS is terrible, right? Sorry. Say you think GIS is terrible, and you say to Marilyn, Marilyn, I think GIS is terrible. And she'll say, why? And you'll say, because its functionality is bad. And she'll say, have you learned about this add-on, or how the application can be changed to X? And you can have a discussion about it, right? And maybe your perspective will change, and then you'll say, GIS is not terrible. Or Marilyn will say, oh my God, maybe GIS is terrible. But the point is having that conversation with each other, right, is more valuable to you than going to the bathroom and complaining.
Mm-hmm.
That is correct.
Okay? And that's it. It's February, I put up snow, but we have no snow.
Thank you so much, Heather.